The Georgia Bulldogs outlast the Ole Miss Rebels in a shootout, 43-35. Welcome to all my fans and friends out there to another sports edition of the Buckeye Vinnie YouTube channel sports show. Sit back, relax, my friends. Let's talk some college football. And what a game it was. Once again, Georgia had to come back, but what a game it was. You know, at one point, Georgia Dogs found themselves down late in the second half, 35-26. But you know, that's one thing about Coach Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. They never say die, and they never give up. Just like when they were down by 14 points against Tennessee on the road. What did they do? They came back and won that game in overtime, 44-41. So, you know, what a game this was tonight, without a doubt, in Sanford Stadium. The Georgia Bulldogs, once again, at one point was down 35-26, and they scored the next 17 points to win the game 43-35. And, you know, my friends, bottom line, you know, Ole Miss went into halftime with a 21-20 lead. Second half, Georgia outscored Ole Miss 23-14. Now, my friends, we're talking about an Ole Miss team that came into this game averaging 515 yards of total offense per game. So let's check out some stats here. We are talking about the Georgia Bulldogs, and I said prior to this video that the winner of this game is going to be the team that was successfully able to rush the football. And this is what I'm getting at. Georgia averaged 186 yards on the ground coming into this game against Ole Miss. Ole Miss averaged 204 rushing yards per game. Check out these stats. Georgia's rushing attack accumulated 221 yards of rushing. That was my point. Ole Miss could not stop the Georgia Bulldogs rushing attack. Ole Miss rushing attack, a measly 88 rushing yards. That was it. I said coming into this game that the Georgia Bulldogs have a tremendous defensive line and linebackers. Georgia defensively only gives up 91 yards to their opponents rushing. And I know everybody figured, well, Ole Miss averages 204 yards on the ground. Ole Miss is going to win this game. My friends, I had a very good feeling, and I predicted Georgia would win this game. I had a very good feeling that Georgia's defense was going to rise to the occasion and stop the Ole Miss rushing attack, and they did just that. Their feature back, Lacey, 12 carries, only 31 yards. Yes, he did score 2 rushing touchdowns, but other than that, only 31 yards on the ground. You know, I hand it to Georgia. Offensive line did a splendid job protecting Gunnar Stockton. Let's talk some stats. What a game for Gunnar Stockton. Probably the best game as a Georgia Bulldog. 26 out of 31. Wow. 289 yards passing, 4 touchdown passes, another game, 0 interceptions. You know, when you stop and look, their rushing attack looked this way. Nate Frazier led the ground attack, 17 carries, 72 yards on the ground. He played a good game. Chauncey Bowens, always reliable Chauncey, 10 carries for 61 yards. And how about Gunnar Stockton? 10 carries, 59 yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. Gunnar accounted for 5 of the Georgia Bulldogs' touchdowns. What a job he did. Honest to goodness, played a phenomenal game. Total offense, Georgia, 510 yards of total offense to Ole Miss 351. My friends, I said coming into this game, Ole Miss total offense was averaging right around 510 yards of total offense. And, you know, I thought Georgia did a nice job in the second half, holding Ole Miss to just 14 points in the second half. that is when Georgia was able to mount their comeback. Like I said, second half down by as many as 9, 35-26. But, you know, my friends, there's no give up in Coach Kirby Smart and the Dogs. Like I said, at that point, they scored the next 17 points and won the game 43-35. You know, when you look at the skilled set position players, I thought that Zachariah Branch did a phenomenal job. 8 catches for 71 yards. How about Lucky? 5 grabs, and this name fits him perfect. 5 grabs, 53 yards receiving. Out of those 5 catches, 3 of them went for touchdowns. Amazing. And Oscar Delp, the big tight end, he played a good game. 4 grabs for 42 yards. You know, my friends, Georgia now leads the all-time series against Ole Miss Rebels. 34 wins, only 14 losses, and 1 tie. And Georgia's record in Athens, Georgia, against Ole Miss, a tremendous 20 wins, 4 losses, and 1 tie. Georgia now has won 35 out of their last 36 games at Sanford Stadium. And my friends, let's look at this. The last time Ole Miss won in Athens, Georgia, you got to go all the way back to 1996. So my friends, bottom line, I had a good feeling about tonight's game. I said this was going to be the revenge game from a year ago when Georgia went into Ole Miss in that rainy, sloppy game. And Jackson Dart had a big game last season, beating Georgia 28-10. I just had a feeling at home, and let's be honest, the crowd was rowdy and loud. I think that put some pressure in the second half on Chambliss. Okay, Chambliss was 19 out of 36, 263 yards passing, 1 touchdown pass. But, you know, Chambliss put up a lot of his big numbers in the first half, okay? Once the defense was able to start getting through and blitzing Chambliss and putting pressure in him and forcing him to release the ball way too early, that is when Georgia's defense started to mount a comeback, started to gain confidence, and in the meantime, Chambliss, on the other hand, was losing confidence. You know, I mean, we're talking about a quarterback that was only 19 out of 36. Okay, he played a good game, didn't play a great game. He did very well in the first half, leading, you know, having Ole Miss take the 21-20 halftime lead. But my friends, after that, you know, I give a lot of credit to the defensive coordinator for Georgia in the second half. He knew he needed to make second half adjustments, and he did just that. And I give a lot of credit to the Georgia Bulldogs defensive line. They held their own. You know, a team that averaged 204 rushing yards per game, Ole Miss, and the defense stymied them to just 88 rushing yards the entire game. My hat's off to Georgia. What a game it was. They deserved it. Georgia now goes to a very impressive 6-1 on the year, 4-1 in the SEC. Ole Miss and Coach Lane Kiffin, 6-1 overall, 3-1 in the SEC conference. And I'm just going to say this. To start this game, Ole Miss was 5 ranked, and Georgia was 9th ranked. Well, we all know now Georgia will definitely climb because, let's be honest, Miami Hurricanes got beaten in that upset game by the Louisville Cardinals. So without a doubt, Georgia's going to climb once again. And what a game it was. You know, this was a typical shootout in Sanford Stadium, Athens, Georgia, 43-35. The Dogs come out victorious. My friends, if you are new to my channel and you haven't yet subscribed, please smash that subscribe button. If you like this video, which I hope all my dog friends do, please click on the like button. Like always, check out Super Thanks. And not only do I love to read your comments, but I love to respond and get back to every comment that I do read. So please comment down below about this game. My friends, like always, please click on this face right up here to subscribe. And like always, peace out. God bless you all. Keep the faith. Until next time, Buckeye Vinny is out of here. One more time. Dogs beat Ole Miss 43-35. I'm out.